Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cindy.
And we're here with another Feeding Frenzy for the 40-Day Prosperity Plan. This is day 18.
My consciousness of the Spirit within me as my unlimited source is the divine power to restore the years the locusts have eaten, to make all things new, to lift me up to the high road of abundant prosperity. This awareness, understanding, and knowledge of Spirit appears as every visible form and experience that I could possibly desire.
What does that mean to you? Lift you up to a high road. What is a high road?
Well, the high road is capitalized here, so that means God. It's another attribute of God. I did a study a long time ago. I forgot the name of it now. But they talked about rising above. Some kind of weight loss thing. The way down or something. Anyway, they talked about rising above, and I always thought that's cool that we have the choice to rise above the piddly, trivial, mundane, drama queen kind of things. You know, that's not our drama. And we don't have to get in every little fight. We got to pick our battles. And so to lift me up to the high road, I think of that every time, is rising above the stuff that just doesn't matter. You know, picking our battles. And also, it reminds me of being on a mountaintop. When you're on the mountaintop, you can see all the stuff below. It all makes sense. You know, if we were trying to get from here to there, it's a lot easier to figure out how to do that from way up there than it is from down here. I always think of being raised up and being lifted to a new perspective.
A higher way of thinking.
A higher way of thinking. Above the stuff that doesn't matter. Above the trivial, mundane drama stuff that just really doesn't matter. And just being put up on that mountain so that I can see everything around me more clearly. So a more clear
but aren't we
perspective.
taught that we don't know what the plan is?
So you mean
I've heard it said several times that you don't know what God's will is. You don't know what the plan is because you can't see any further than that. So to me, this statement kind of contradicts that.
So
lifting me to a high road
of abundant prosperity. So if I'm lifted up to a better perspective, to a clearer way of seeing the path that I have available, then I think it helps me to make better decisions, and it helps me to just think more clearly.
And then what? I'm going to be seeing more of the plan, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you see things from God's perspective, and which for me means to think about things the way God does. And that means taking all the anger and all the bitterness and all the ego and all the piddly stuff anyway out of it. And just seeing things from God's perspective, which is God loves all of us the same. And He's not going to choose my way of thinking over yours. You know, He's going to see things differently than my ego does. So for me, lifting me up to the high road of abundant prosperity means helping me to see the real principles behind prosperity and the things that really matter.
And see past prosperity being labeled as only money.
Right. Me waking up in the morning and thinking, I've got to go to work because I don't want to get fired and I don't want to lose my paycheck. You know, is that the way God would look at it, or would it be, I get to go serve so-and-so by doing this thing, you know? To me, that would help me to decide, okay, which one of these is from the higher perspective? Which one of these is the high road? You know, going to serve somebody or going to make $1? You know? There's a difference, and that's why, you know, we can go in a fast food joint and there's somebody that says, oh, how are you today? You know, and they're in a good mood and they're really loving their job. And I almost feel like they're called to serve at McDonald's, you know? They're called for that job. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying
you can
that
tell
the job
those
is
who are
bad.
there to serve and those who are there just to get the paycheck.
Exactly.
You can tell.
Exactly.
It's the energy they're putting behind it, you know?
Right.
Literally.
And there are some people who are truly called to be waitresses and hostesses and do a darn good job at it. And there are others, you know, they are not wanting to be there, and that is not their passion.
But we find that in our everyday too, in ours. It's not just in a position like that. It's in every position.
Right.
You know, in every workplace you're going to find that.
Exactly.
So for that to me leads me to knowing that once I recognize that my supply is within, and that God is without limitations, and without even the limitations I place upon it. You know what I'm saying? Spirit is spirit, you know, regardless whether or not I understand in the moment how it works. That gives me hope in knowing that just my acknowledgement of the God within is going to help me see a higher perspective. It's going to help me get to that higher road.
Right.
To help me see a bigger picture in the moment.
Right.
Not necessarily the entire map of my life, but I'm going to see something deeper, further, higher than that moment
Right.
would normally afford me in my limited perspective behind all of my layers. So that's what it speaks to me about.
Right. Well, just for me, just knowing that I have all that power at my fingertips, and all that knowledge and wisdom and all that God is behind me, makes me act more confidently. You know, makes me not feel like I'm dependent on Cindy to get this done or to make this happen. It puts the pressure on that team behind me. Or at least lets me be more free in my actions because I know I've got that team to back me up.
Sure. Then you're never alone.
Right. So lifting me up to the higher road or the high road also lets me see that team that's behind me, you know, and not just be focused right here, but it helps me to focus on the bigger picture and what the resources I have and the power I have and the knowledge I have, you know.
What does that mean for you that the years the locusts have eaten? What does that mean to you? And to restore
means that all
does it mean to give back the car you didn't get at 16? Do you see what I'm saying? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means that, well, the years the locusts have eaten for me are the years I've wasted.
Good point.
The years I've wasted. I mean, there was a time I didn't realize that verbal abuse was wrong until I was 30-something. You know, and I was really angry at that point when I realized that my whole life I felt like I had wasted it because I had lived under someone's thumb. And so I felt like all that 30 years of my life was wasted. And then I realized, no, none of it was wasted because it all got me to where I am now. And when I started seeing things from that higher perspective, from God's perspective, I saw where none of that was wasted. All of that was useful. And not the only way to waste that would be to not learn a lesson from it.
Yeah, exactly. Or to refuse to see it.
Or to refuse to see it,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could not be where I was at 34 or 5 or whatever it was if I had not gone through that stuff. If I had not wasted, in the terms I used, those years. If I hadn't been put through the ringer or whatever for those years, I would not have been where I was. And I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. So, for me, all the years the locusts have eaten, if I look at those years as the years the locusts have eaten, those years putting me in this place more than makes up for it. So it's restored to me all the years the locusts have eaten. Because I see the purpose of
That
it.
to me speaks a little deeper. For me, I'm seeing it's talking about where I was when I was in that moment compared to where I am now. Now that I know that God was within and my supply is within and God is bigger than I can imagine God to be, and it's more, God is more than God. God is spirit and energy and love and the whole universe and everything I can dream of and can't. I can see those years now from this perspective, like you were saying. Whereas when I was in it, I felt like you were talking about, it was being wasted because all I could see were the things that were being eaten away. I didn't see from that higher perspective that I do have now. So in the knowing and the acknowledging God in that, I can see from that higher road, from that higher perspective, the part it played, like you said, to get me where I am now. So for me, it wasn't a giving back what was lost, but seeing it from that different perspective makes it no longer a loss, but a gain. Because now I can see the tread uphill to where now I am here. Whereas there, all I could see was the tread, you know, the drudgery.
Yeah, you couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly. So now that I'm here, I can actually see the forest rather than just the trees and the gnawing away at the bark. Now I can see that was my ripening period to get me to where I could see from this perspective.
And you may see the reason for the trees. You know?
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
if the trees weren't there, then the ocean may have come way up here. You know, something. There's a reason for that tree being there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in the middle of it, we can't figure out the reason for the trees that are around us.
So it seems like
way.
time wasted, and it seems like, God, why have you forsaken me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I get older and I dive into this more, I understand, you know, when Jesus said that, my God, why have you forsaken me? Mm-hmm. At that point, all he could see was we couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? He was in that moment so human, he was caught up in his agony, could not see any longer that higher perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I see that more in my own life as we go through this.
Yeah.
Lifting me up to that higher perspective for where I can see above the mundane and the drudgery of it.
Wow.
To see that.
Wow. Okay, so now I'm going to put God in there, okay? My consciousness of the God within me as my unlimited God is the God to restore the years the locusts have eaten, to make all things new, to lift me up to the God of abundant prosperity. This awareness, understanding, and knowledge of God appears as every visible form and experience that I could possibly desire. How does that change it?
Well, for me, it just reaffirms my knowledge that everything is God. It's all God.
Yeah.
You know? And it just reaffirms that the God I'm talking about out here that brings things in from the invisible in order to bring it into manifestation in my life is the same God that resides in me. And it's the same God that brings my perspective out. And it's the same God that will
That's a good point.
do this, that,
Even
and the
though-
other. It's the same.
Right.
You know? It's all God.
Right. I think that's one thing that replacing it with God does for me is he uses so many different words for God in here that putting it all under the term God helps us to remember that it's the same God that you have, it's the same God that I have, there is one God. And I think
It's
that's what
one
the Bible
mind.
was trying to get across is that it's all the same God.
It's the same.
And all these religious wars are fighting over the same God. It's the God that's in and around all of us. Okay, now I'm going to do it with energy.
Okay.
My consciousness of the energy within me as my unlimited energy is the energy to restore the years the locusts have eaten, to make all things new, to lift me up to the energy of abundant prosperity. This awareness, understanding, and knowledge of energy appears as every visible form and experience that I could possibly desire.
Sometimes there's a differentiation between the word God and energy. When you replaced it this time, they're on the same playing
Really?
field for me. Yeah. Because I've opened myself enough to see God as it's all God. So they did the same for me for energy. So it didn't change at all for me.
It changed
Did it
a little
change
bit
for
for
you?
me on that last one. It says this awareness, understanding, and knowledge of energy appears as every visible form and experience that I could possibly desire. That makes a little more sense to me because as my scientific mind gets going, I can see how energy changes to be a table, and energy changes to be you and me, and you know, energy is changing to be the form and experience that I have, and I can see that in my mind, energy changing into different, being a shapeshifter, so to speak.
Yeah.
I have more trouble seeing God as that because I still picture God as a person, you know.
Yeah.
So it helps me a little bit more to see how God can change into the different forms that I need at the time. Boy, and that's going to be fun when I get to those unfulfilled desires, when it just changes to whatever I need it. I know it's coming, too.
It is coming. That's good stuff.
It's very good stuff.
Shree.
Shree.